All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a good group here with us. Welcome again. If you're just joining us, my name is Sarah Pazer, and I am the Director of School Leadership for the Flex Tech High School network of schools in Michigan. And about a year and a half ago, I had the pleasure of joining a group of really talented educators across the state. And we formed a group called the Keep Michigan Learning Work Group. And our sole mission was really to support districts with that abrupt shift to virtual learning and blended learning that happened during the pandemic. So we have managed to kind of stick together, and we've accomplished a lot. So if you're not familiar with the keepmichiganlearning.org website, I encourage you to check that out. We've developed a personalized PD playlist generator. We've developed a whole repository of K-12 digital content, as well as a guide to selecting an LMS. And that's really what we're going to focus on today, is the conversation around choosing an LMS. So on the website, there is definitely a framework for you to use, but today we're kind of moving into the details of specific LMS options. So we've assembled a panel of superstars for you today who are going to talk a little bit about their journey. So I'm going to introduce them. We've got 3 districts here that are going to talk to you today. So our first district is Dearborn Public Schools, and Amy Gwiz and Chris Kenneberg are going to talk a little bit about Moodle for you. We've got Dr. Chris Timmis from Dexter Community Schools, and we've got Superintendent Carrie Wozniak from Fraser Public Schools. So we're excited to share with you some information, and then after presentations, just so you know, we're going to open it up for questions, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end for specific questions that you have as a group. I'm going to turn it over to Dearborn Public Schools right now. Amy, take it away.
Thanks, Sarah. Hello, good afternoon. So I'm Amy Gwiz from Dearborn Public Schools, and I also have with me Chris Kenneberg. He is our webmaster. So we're going to talk about Moodle. That is our LMS of choice. So our district has been actively using Moodle for about 15 years. When we first started out, there were just a few people interested, and it kind of gathered steam as we went. You can see in the picture that we actually got to meet the founder and CEO of Moodle, which is Martin Duguyamis, at ISTE in 2016, and he knew who we were. So we were a little starstruck by that. That was pretty awesome. But Chris Kenneberg, who is my co-presenter, he is known worldwide for his work with Moodle. He created the Fordson theme, which is in the top 3 most downloaded and used Moodle themes in the entire world. And he was also invited to be the keynote speaker at the Japan Moodle Moot, but then this thing called COVID hit, and so that didn't happen. And we've also been presenters at the Nationwide Mountain Moot in Montana. Unfortunately, to be perfectly honest, when the pandemic hit, our district chose to go a different direction with its LMS, and because no one was required to use an LMS prior, there wasn't a lot of training that was offered, and it was all done on a voluntary basis. So we had people that used Moodle. They were using it because they chose to. And then once we had to put everybody virtually, our district chose a different LMS that they thought would be more user-friendly. So they chose another route. But we are here to present on Moodle because we were part of the team that built Moodle and chose to continue to use Moodle. Our district does continue to support Moodle and teachers that use it.
So our selection process, Moodle has a built-in, well, I shouldn't say built-in. We have a integration with MyStar, so teachers can map what's in Moodle to MyStar and then push the grades out. There's course and user syncing. We could provide parent access, but as Amy pointed out, that was never really on our roadmap prior to COVID. And when COVID hit, that became a critical element. And so we ended up steering towards another LMS. But one of the main things, even in our selection or committee processes when we were selecting an LMS, the depth of learning tools and activity types, Moodle was consistently towards the top, just because of the amount of built-in tools that teachers can use. Obviously, the user experience, content authoring, there's certain tools that are fully integrated with Moodle, H5P, peer assessment with the workshop. There's a variety of powerful tools that teachers really find useful. And the collaboration and sharing of content, it's fairly easy to share quizzes, do common assessments, those kinds of things. And we like that it's open source. It is not tied to a budget item. It's not something that the district would be in a bind if there was financial hard times. And we own and operate it out of our own infrastructure. So that's something that we kind of like, and it's why we can keep it around, as the seasons and flavors of the days change. We have it there, and it's ready for the teachers that use it. And recently, a lot of Michigan schools are struggling with dealing with the OCR and the ADA compliance, and Moodle is one of the leaders when it comes to ADA compliance. And each iteration, each new release, which is every 6 months, they are more and more, compliant, and including just the amount of reporting tools that they offer. In their latest release, there is a report that is generated for the teacher to let them know parts of their course, some of their materials that aren't ADA compliant. And so why do we prefer Moodle? The variety of learning tools, the flexibility that it gives you in assigning roles, whether it's at the site level, the course level, or even the activity level. There's times when teachers might want to let a student take charge and grade an assignment. There's learning opportunities, there's value in that. A lot of LMSs, you can't do that. With Moodle, you can. And then again, it goes back to accommodating a variety of teaching styles. It really is a teaching tool. And, that's both a good point and a bad point, because like anything, the first time you're learning to write, it's a little bit of a pain, but once you learn it, it's a skill for life. Allows for the creation of in-depth DOK learning experience. Again, the local control of data. As we start looking at security and all the different network security issues going on, we run this stuff in-house. And it has one of the most flexible grading structures, traditional, standards-based, competency-based, and those competencies can span individual courses, activities, site-wide, and can be based on programs instead of just individual classes. And at every step of the way, there's feedback that can be automated to give students the valuable instruction when they are working remotely. And of course, again, going back to that ADA compliance, we want all students to be able to learn, and Moodle provides that.
So these are some highlights from the student perspective. So some screenshots. This course was used by my fellow tech coach, Bob Harrison, when he was an AP anatomy and physiology teacher. So props to him for providing these. But you can see that this is what the students would see in a course. And at the top, you can create buttons so that students can just click there and it'll take them exactly where they need to go, where you want them to begin for the day or the week or the unit. Moodle also provides a glossary, and this is really neat because it can generate random entries. So every time the user signs on, they would have a different view from the glossary. So Bob likes to do the dad joke of the day in his classes. So every time a student logs into Moodle, they get a new dad joke of the day. He also does vocabulary words in here. And then we have world language teachers that put their vocabulary words in there so that each time the student logs on, it's generated randomly for the student to experience something different that day. And then announcements are discussion forums, and teachers use that to start off a class discussion. They might ask a question for a warm-up in class. Math teachers will use it to put a problem of the day in there. So that's something that's also available as well.
One of the nice things from a student perspective is the checklist module. And what this does is, you can imagine in most courses, if you're running them for an entire year, even a semester, you have a long list of activities. We heard over and over again from parents and students that I just want a list of what I need to do because my student is behind, or they're behind and they need to get caught up. The checklist module lays that all out for the student, and they can very clearly and cleanly see what needs to be completed.
So we also, when we were in the beginning stages of the pandemic, we were relying on Big Blue Button as our video conferencing because it was built into Moodle. And so we really liked the features of Big Blue Button. It has the interactive whiteboard, and it has all the fun bells and whistles that you would look for in a video conferencing tool, and that is built right into Moodle. Also, the ability to assign badges to students upon completion of activities and other like tests and quizzes, it gives the students a gameful learning experience while they're in the LMS.
And we touched on it before, when it comes to getting quiz results, Moodle has extensive reporting tools. They also have add-ons that even take it to a level that only data nerds would really truly appreciate. But the built-in ones are very impressive. You can get different marks based on questions, those kinds of things. And again, we mentioned competency-based marking. You even have marking workflow. So if you have a team teacher, you might have student teachers, you can set up a workflow so that they might do some initial marking. The teacher might complete that marking before the grade is released to the student. So again, a lot of flexibility.
Another highlight from a teacher perspective is the ability to restrict access, so that you can restrict access by groups, by certain students. This is very helpful when you are providing accommodations for your special ed population. You can provide certain information for them, certain information for everyone else. Excuse me. So in this screenshot, it's showing that, one second. All right. It's showing that students have to follow a certain workflow in a certain order the teacher has set up, and they are not able to access things until they complete prior assignments. So it's very helpful.
And then on the teacher view, again, with that checklist module, it gives you a quick rundown of all the students, where they are in the course in terms of completing the assignments. In addition to the checklist module, there's also, Amy just touched on the activity completion. You can run full reports of all the students in the class, every checkbox that they've earned, and have those on spreadsheets and other data formats. And so there's not only activity completion down to the individual activities, there's also course completions and things of that nature, including competencies. So highlights from the team perspective, we have code level access to the LMS platforms, which means we can do things that you just can't do on anything that you pay for. So, we can modify the LMS. We can include certain things that are specific to our district, such as, possibly providing curriculum guides, curriculum resources right there at the course level for the teacher, and putting those links and buttons in places that they will find them. We mentioned custom reporting at the database level. There, because we have the data, we have access to that. There's plenty of, SQL queries that we can run to generate lists of students who might have failed 2 or more quizzes, and we can get that site-wide for the entire district. Again, there's flexible user authentication, whether it be LDAP, integrating with Google sign-ins and those kinds of things. We can collect and populate different course fields. And again, all aspects of the platform can be customized to reflect our learning goals and objectives as a district. So Moodle comes as a complete package, but you get to pick and choose what elements you want to make available to your teachers. So you can go from very complex to very simple. And yep, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So just finally, in conclusion, what we've learned is that you need to know where your staff is in terms of technology use in order to make a wise decision. And we are a large district, 1,500 teachers approximately, and growing daily. So user interface, it's important, but so is the actual efficacy of student learning. So while some LMSs are definitely prettier than Moodle, what we focus on is what can it do and how can it change the way that teachers teach and students learn. And that's why we are such big advocates of Moodle. We feel that Moodle is an LMS that can change the way a classroom looks, feels, the whole experience for students, whether they're in the building face-to-face or virtual. Training and preparation is a continuous process. It cannot be a one and done. It has to be something that is ongoing, and it has to be something that's readily available. We find that we will make modules and put them in Moodle for teachers to learn. So if there's something that they want to learn how to do, or if there's a certain module that they want to learn how to use, we make a how-to video and we house it in our staff development database where all of the staff development is, and then teachers can access that at their own pace and work through it at their own pace. Having those things available for them so that they can constantly have some kind of support. Also, we have 2 tech coaches and a great tech team that's available to help as well. So our big focus is always on the why. For those of you who know Troy Patterson, and he's moved on unfortunately from our district, but he was always big on the why, and that was our overarching goal for implementation, because Moodle could teach the why. It would help with teachers and students to understand their why. Why are they using this? Why is it that they're doing what they're doing? And we feel Moodle was the best choice for that. So
thank you so much, Amy and Chris. That was an awesome deep dive. I learned a ton, and I actually used Moodle as a student in university, so it was cool to see it in the K-12 realm and all the things that you can do with it. So thanks so much. I'm going to keep things moving along, so just keep those questions that you have until the end. We'll have some time to dig in a little bit more with Chris and Amy. Oops. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chris Timmis.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to kind of talk through our process of choosing Canvas at Dexter Community Schools. So we started off around 2013-ish. We had a couple classrooms using Moodle. We had a classroom paying for a subscription of one classroom worth of Blackboard. We then in 2014 started shifting people over and training our staff to use Google Classroom, and we would set up like our PD in there, our study groups, the PLCs, etc. Then in 2016, we began using Summit Learning for grades 6 through 8, which we also use 5 through 8 to this day. As we went on, we had more and more teachers grabbing onto Google Classroom, but they were seeing the limitations. And then we noticed some were trying to get free accounts to Schoology or free accounts to Canvas. Or in the youngest grades, they were using the free access to Seesaw. So what we did is we decided that in 2017 and 18, that our staff was ready, especially at the secondary level, to really look for a formal LMS that we would consistently use in all classrooms. So I, as the superintendent, told or directed a handful of people to start a search. And one of the criteria that the top criteria we used, given our demographic, is we send a large number of students to college. So we analyzed where our students go most frequently to college at. We then looked at what LMS those universities are using, which took us down the Canvas route as one of the options. What we wanted as far as considerations is we wanted a common delivery system so we could best serve our kids and their needs in a similar structure to every classroom. We wanted to increase our communication with our students and our parents. We wanted to provide resources for students to succeed that weren't constrained by time and place. We wanted to increase our collaboration opportunities for our students and our staff. And to this day, we still put within Canvas, we put all of our training in there for staff to go through. Whenever we do any training, we send them right to Canvas. Integration with our school's student information system, we use PowerSchool. And then strong user support and system for the administrators and for the staff. And we wanted an ADA compliant environment. So after deliberating on options, we ended up moving to Canvas in May 2018. And then about a year later, we made it mandatory for everyone to use from grades 3 through 8. As far as our reasons for selecting, sorry, I'm running the screen next to me so I can post back. So the major emphasis for selection was based on which systems would best meet the needs of our students. And we wanted to find a simple user interface that didn't resemble social media. That was why we did not go with Schoology. It looked too social media similar. We actually put another emphasis on increasing the modes of communication between instructors and learning. So we liked Canvas because it was intuitive and it gave us an opportunity to increase the collaboration and communication between our staff and students. It's very easy to integrate the calendar and scheduling virtual office hours in. It works well with PowerSchool overall, our student information system. And it has allowed us, we can seamlessly stream our enrollment and reporting process. Every time we change the schedule, we can sync it overnight. The user face is similar to what our students were going to see in higher ed. And then we have taken the time to make it friendly for even as low as grade 3 with lots of images, et cetera. So in terms of student and parent perspective, So our students have the option to see all of their classes in a card view, which is the one on the left, or they can look at a calendar list, which gives them a daily schedule, which is more towards the right. They have access to all of their classes in one platform. We use Google single sign-on. So when they sign on to Google, there's in the waffle, they're able to just pull in and pull up Canvas. Their email address through, and we use Google, their email address is integrated within Canvas. Their calendar and schedule, so their own Google Calendar, we can have it connected with Canvas. Notifications can be received either through email or through some kind of messaging service. Their to-do list appears on their student dashboard, which makes it really easy to communicate upcoming events and assignments. Recent feedback appears on the student dashboard, providing them easy updates to what our teachers assessed and what communications the teachers are sending. The parent observer accounts provide the parents with real-time access to the student progress and educational resources. They're able to observe progress that's not limited to just reporting grades, but also provides real-time access to lessons, assignments, formative feedback on submitted assignments, so the parents see what the kids are seeing. And then parent and observers can communicate with their teachers through Canvas, which makes it really easier for the teachers to navigate and keep track of. So as far as a teacher perspective, our teachers have access to all of their classes at a single sign-on page. It's set up automatically to integrate with our student information system to update course enrollments within our district calendar. So when we change something in PowerSchool, it then updates Canvas. It's an easy communication tool that we've integrated within the systems, including all the student and parent contact information is synced out of our student information system, and it automatically syncs into Canvas for us. We've integrated the external educational tools. We've differentiated modes of delivery and collection of artifacts. So teachers are able to modify instructional concepts to meet the student's interest within Canvas, which has helped tremendously. We have teachers can collaborate on classes. So we'll build the shells and then they can use that shell class or work between classes. So if we have multiple chemistry teachers, they're all working within the same classes. We're able to archive and copy courses. So when we get a new teacher, they're able to pull a shell of a course already. We're able to, I apologize, my phone is ringing already. Our ability to select outcomes that are articulated from state published curriculum, we can put that in there, as well as create custom outcomes to meet student needs. And we're working on integration of a digital portfolio into the LMS system. So as far as support staff in the back office, there's an ability to see the assignments and the content and the instruction. It's the next slide, sorry. There's ability to see the assignments, the content, and the structure in real time on the back end. There's a masquerade feature that allows teachers to log in as a student so they can view what the screen looks like from a student perspective. There's data on student progress with artifacts of evidence, so the student submitted work. There's access to teacher material and resources. There's a to-do list that is really helpful for the kids. Then we get into when students are absent, the to-do list gives them opportunity to, with itemized list of assignments that they needed to complete, which has been really helpful for our students. The office staff, and this is, yep, that's the right slide. The office staff has, it's really easy for the office staff to assign to a guest teacher the courses whenever we have to have a sub teacher, even for a longer period of time. It's really easy to flip over. And we can share and assign class content in the case of an emergency. So teachers from one course to another, we can share it over. Global announcements are really helpful, where we can disseminate to all users within the Canvas LMS, and they can be posted to all schools or within the district or just specific buildings. We do this a lot with staff. We also do it with kids because they get used to using Canvas so they know where to look. We create work groups within the system. So we have PLC groups of adults, we have department groups, we have school clubs. So we've set up, used the back end to really bridge it out. And then conclusion, throughout our selection and our integration process, we felt it was important to maintain the central role of an LMS was to provide clear communication with our students. We knew that there were several different LMS systems that provide resources and tools to help teachers and administrators, but the student needed to be the top consideration. So we felt that Canvas met those needs the best. And we've taken it and used it as a central hub for all communication within the district. So it just becomes part of the culture of the district. It's a central place for information related to sports clubs, information that would go out to stakeholders. It's worked really well in that fashion for us.
Thanks, Chris. That was really powerful. The points you lifted about the integration between the student information system and the LMS, that is so critical. And then just emphasizing the communication too. So very good stuff. Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Fraser Public Schools, Superintendent Wozniak.
Hi, good to see everybody. Now, I just want to make sure I can move the slides, or are you moving the slides for me?
I'll move the slides, and if there's something you want me to go back or forward, just let me know.
Got it. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to talk to all of you about our learning management system journey. And again, I think we've had some great stories right now. I'm talking about where they're at. We believe in Fraser that an LMS is an online student resource that allows student access to their teacher-provided lessons, resources, and assessments. And that was really important for us to kind of talk about what our beliefs are when it comes to the learning management system. And I do want to tell you our current reality, because it's an interesting reality. Right now, we're using 2 LMSs, and next year we're actually moving to Canvas, and our friends in Dexter have shared many of the reasons why we're making the transition. But I think the principles we're going to be talking about today, as far as an instructional framework and what we're trying to do, really meets the conversation that we're having today. So right now we're using itsLearning and Blackboard. So next slide, please. And something we've thought a lot about is this digital ecosystem. And this really has been the history of our thinking. We actually shared this slide with our Board of Education on Monday when we were talking about our new LMS. And if you go to the next slide, you're going to see how we've worked really hard to have a connected system between these 3, I think, very important systems. And that's your SIS. And in our district, it's Unified Classroom Power School. And we're also using what's called a Unified Classroom Power Teacher we have access to, and our learning management system. In addition to Power Teacher, we also have Illuminate, which is our data warehouse. And we've really worked hard to kind of separate out the data warehouse from our learning management system, because we see them serving really 2 different purposes. And our goal is to build our assessments into Illuminate and have them linked in our learning management system, which I'll talk about in a minute. Next slide. So this really talks about that separation of the 2 pieces. And when we made the decision to look at 2 different systems, I think that brought us a lot of clarity. So in our district, we have our learning management system, which houses all of our digital courses. The parents can access our digital courses, the common calendar, teacher biographical data. All of those things are housed in the LMS. And I've listed some other things that go in there. And we've been doing this for years now. And for a long time, we were really trying to make all of that happen in the learning management system. And we realized that that just wasn't going to work at a district level. So our data warehouse, which is Illuminate, is where we keep all of our assessments that are linked to competencies and learning objectives. Anything that is linked to a performance task or evidence of student learning, that data lives in Illuminate. And the reason we felt that that was important is because with our MTSS system, we have this long list of assessments that we need to manage and really keep track of as part of the student's data profile. And we can have attendance, at-risk information, the grade book, all of those pieces. They really fit well into that data warehouse. So that gives us a very nice district perspective of our students using Illuminate. So again, we've got the learning management system and our data warehouse, which really are separate entities by just because of the things that we need them to do. Go ahead, the next slide. So really why we have chosen the LMS that we've chosen, and this became the reason why we went to Canvas next year. We want to have master courses, or what we call parent-child, and we are able to do that in Blackboard. We're able to do this in itsLearning, and this is really critical to us because our teachers build a master course, and then they, as we like to say, kind of decorate the house with their own personal touches. And we want to make sure that whatever system we use has that ability to push courses out and copy content into other courses. So we have some real high level users. We've been using, like I said, an LMS for a long time now, and having the ability to copy content into that original course and then share those activities and resources out to other grade level teachers is really, really important to us. We try to have a lot of, fidelity with what our students are experiencing as far as content. And that was important to us. The other piece is we wanted to make sure parents have quick access to the content, the classroom resources, and digital materials. So those are some of those points that we look at every time we've made this decision about what LMS to choose. So a couple of things I wanted to share with you is some highlights of our, from student and parent perspective. We believe our LMS should represent our teaching and learning framework. So we believe in the framework of universal design for learning, and the idea of giving kids lots of engagement, choice, and explicit instruction is very, very important. And we want to make sure as teachers are building in the learning management system that the content is being designed really intentionally. And we have coaches in our district that support that work. So this example right here, you're going to see that you've got this is an English 9 class where, the teacher is not only providing the assignment they're working on To Kill a Mockingbird, but you're going to see that she's embedded a summary video. There's a text of of To Kill a Mockingbird that's available to them. There's also annotation of each section that they're reading, which is very helpful. And then also video content. So we really try to make sure that when we're putting in that content, we're designing it with all students in mind. And then the last piece is that engagement piece, having an opening activity that really draws the student in and gets them, excited about the text or excited about that assignment is really important. So we try very hard to make sure all of those pieces are included. And when you talk about it from the teacher perspective, you're going to see again that teamwork piece that really has come into play. We see a lot of our teachers working together to develop these courses. So this is an example from biology where the biology team is putting together their work. So you may have different teachers making some of the video content and posting that information also into the learning management system. So I wanted to just give you some kind of highlights from the support staff, that back office perspective. So one of the things we know that's really important to us is this data warehouse piece and having a grade book that allows staff and students and parents to collect and view student evidence for competency. And then we also have the other side of the house that we want our content to be delivered to our students in an effective way. And in that case here, we knew that the learning management system wouldn't do both of those things for us, especially, like I said, with all of the data that we needed to collect. So we really have really rethought the role of our data warehouse. We used to use a system called Data Director, which has sunsetted, and we knew that we had to be really thoughtful about what this would look like for our students and our staff. And that's what caused us to be very intentional now about having these two separate systems. And this again will be available to you. We kind of created what we called the LMS decision-making chart. And you can see here on this chart there's a link available to it, and all the different aspects we looked at, from technology support to what our current systems were. And this process really helped us get to where we are today. So in summary, you're going to see this is where we ended up. With our student information system, our LMS, and then our Illuminate as our assessment system. Next year for 2022-23, the LMS will be Canvas, and we are excited, to have a K-12 LMS and not be in two systems. And we, again, will continue to use our framework that we've developed for teaching and learning to build inside that learning management system.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I think it was really helpful to hear just how you arrived at where you are today and that journey, so that other people can kind of hear your thinking and your process for making that decision. And I love what you did with, trying to think about what your needs were first, and, which tool could suit your needs versus try to make the tool fit what you were trying to accomplish. So that's awesome. Thank you. You've heard a lot of information, so I'm sure you have some questions. So if you want to take a minute, and you can use the Q&A box or the chat and submit any questions you have for our panelists. And while you're thinking of things, I'm going to kick it off. And I think I'm going to go back to Dearborn. And if you could just maybe elaborate a little bit for us about how your instructional framework really informed your decision on choosing your LMS. Like how did you, incorporate that into your decision-making process?
So our district is very student-centered, and we wanted to use something that would support student-centered learning. And that's one of the main factors that we used in choosing Moodle, because Moodle allows for students to do peer assessment and for the ease in giving students a teacher role in Moodle so that they can look at their assignments and activities from a teacher perspective. That supports student-centered learning. Inquiry-based learning as well. That's something else that we like to focus on. And then I lost my train here. Student-based. We're having a lot of discussions around competency-based grading and assessments, and the ease of Moodle to do that is something that we're very happy with as well. So those points really help to support our framework.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I was going to kind of jump over to Chris to see if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more about, how your instructional framework led you to Canvas.
Yeah, we actually, we chose Canvas prior to moving to the current instructional framework that we're working on. We're using this 5E inquiry model, and we've had to do some work to structure Canvas and playlist, et cetera, to be able to show it in that model. It's worked really well, but it's taken some understanding from a tech side and from an instructional side and merging the two to make it usable. So far, looks really, it's very friendly. Canvas is pretty robust, so that's helped us significantly. And we have some instructional coaches that are very tech savvy and we're Canvas users. And then our tech department has been instrumental in helping us make it do what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yes. And I know, Carrie, you did talk a lot about this in your presentation, but if there was any final thoughts, kind of universal design for learning and how that integrates with your new choice for an LMS?
Sure. I think that's so critical to be thinking about your instructional framework as teachers are putting the content into the learning management system. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of collaboration with our teachers, because they do appreciate that. I think extra ability, or the ability to take the work off of one another. And, some teachers are really good at certain things, and it has created a lot more collaboration between teachers.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked what you talked about, Chris and Carrie, with Canvas, how teachers can use those course shells that they've already developed and share those with someone else, and you can continue to build them out and customize them. That's another way that increases that collaboration for sure. So that was neat to learn about. I'm going to kick it over to Chris. I don't see any other questions in the chat or the Q&A, so I'm going to keep rolling. Chris, you did a great job of talking about the integration between Moodle and your student information system. But maybe could you talk about if there's any other things that you had to consider with your system and what it could integrate with?
Moodle supports all the, I guess the standards and I'm leaning towards like the LTI standards. Moodle supports all of those standards. So things that like external tools, like for instance, even Zoom, Google Meet. I know we touched on Big Blue Button. Moodle integrates with all of those. And so you get, whether it's Nearpod or some of the other third-party benchmark, these types of external tools. Mm-hmm. Moodle actually, the LMS that we went with was Schoology, and Schoology uses the standard, which I think is like the 1.0 standard. And Moodle is on the 1.3 standard. There's some significant benefits for teachers that are utilizing LTI tools, because if you're stuck at the 1.0 standard, when you go to launch the activity, that means that each student, in order to be rostered in that external tool, has to click the link. If you're using the newer standard, once the teacher creates the assignment and they go into it, it automatically pulls in the entire class roster. So there's some significant benefits to be using something that's a little bit more modern with the updated standards. And, some of the other integrations that one of the things that we didn't even touch on, and I don't know that very many, any of the presentations did, were the applications, the web, the phone apps that go with the LMSs. I know everyone, I think they all pretty much have one. But the one thing that Moodle has that I don't know that the other ones do is we have a lot of students that go home and maybe don't have internet. And Moodle has the ability where the student, when they show up, they can download the entire course, all the activities. It will operate from the app so that the student can take the learning home with them. And when they return the next day, it can sync up their assignments, the work that they've completed. So, and again, all of this is tied in through, our central Active Directory accounts and things like that. So it's a nice system.
I also wanted to just throw in that we're working with RISA so that we can integrate our data in our assessment systems so that Moodle can work with Illuminate to push grades to our SIS. So forgot to mention that.
Thank you. Chris, anything that you had to keep in mind when you made the choice with Canvas in terms of integration with other tools?
Yeah, we do have one. I mean, whenever you have technology that no matter how well developed it is and how much the salespeople say that it will talk with the other systems, there are always some subtle nuances to figure out. So for example, with Canvas and the grading feature and then using PowerSchool, we have some issues once in a while where if we don't set a course up correctly, the grades don't match in the two systems. Mm-hmm. So It's the workaround is we've had to figure out what needs to be set up as a semester course versus a year-long course and things like that. You can always find a way to make it work, but there are nuances to try to figure out just so that it doesn't sync too fast. It doesn't, and that the information is consistent and it's not confusing. That's one that stands out, is just having to figure out little things like setting up courses as a semester course so the grades match.
Yeah, that's a great point. Carrie, did you want to expand on anything related to technology integration?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is, you were talking about the grades. I mean, there's so many pieces with those grade books, because you've got final grades, exporting things, all of the components that you still have to do in a comprehensive high school or middle school for that matter. And I think that's why we're really leveraging Illuminate to do all of that work, and really thinking about instructional design and portfolio work more in the learning management system.
Absolutely.
It's interesting you mentioned like portfolios, there's an actual portfolio software called Mahara, and that's one of those things. I know there's other ones too, but those are some of the tools that we're also are integrated with, that we have with Moodle.
Thanks, that's great. Those are the questions that I had. I just wanted to give an opportunity one last time to anybody, any of our attendees, if you'd like to ask anything of our panelists. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for being here, and thank you to the panelists. You guys really did an awesome job explaining the nuances of each of your systems and really kind of being very candid about what it can and can't do. I know that's helpful. If I was somebody making a decision, hearing those things are really important. So thanks again. Just to remind you, our resources are located on the keepmichiganlearning.org website. And what we're going to do is create just 3 different videos of this presentation today for each one of the learning management systems that we discussed. So if you want to re-listen, you'll be able to find them there. And as always, we're available. So if you want to reach out to any of the panelists or myself, feel free to do that. We're here to help answer your questions and support your journey to finding the right LMS for your school. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.